Good afternoon. This is Doc with Dr. Patrick Live, and I thought I would kind of tell you a little bit about me. Not that it's very comfortable to do so, but I really want you to understand why I do what I do. So I was born in 1965, so I'm an old fart, right? And when I was born, I was supposed to be twin girls, and it was all a mess. Obviously, I came out instead. But the man and the woman I was born to, my parents, really had a difficult time. Matter of fact, when I was 8 years old, on March 25th, 1974, my father, along with two other men, tied up two guys outside of Port Huron, Michigan, shot them in the back of the head, kind of, assassinated them. And the next day, he was back home and pretended everything was normal. My dad was pretty much a sociopath, a murderer, major drug dealer, and he pretended to be this amazing guy. He was arrested a few weeks later. Eventually, it took almost a year. He was sentenced to 10 to 20 years for second-degree murder because on the day his trial was supposed to start, he took a plea deal from first-degree murder to second. So he got the 10 to 20 years, went to Jackson State Penitentiary in Michigan. And I still remember his prison number, right? 141154. Because every time we went to visit him, which was every week, we had to say that number to even get into the gate. Then on September 14th, 1977, a few years later, my father escaped from prison and we went with him. My mom was driving a station wagon. He jumped over the wall, got in with another guy, and we were off. We hid in a monastery, then eventually went and lived in a tent in Colorado, then worked our way to Las Vegas. And when we were in Las Vegas, we changed identities. I went from Patrick Nave first to being Patrick Kulwicki because that was the first name we were told that we were going to have this identity. And then later, my dad found a way, and I'm not sure exactly how he did it, but we became Dumke, D-U-M-K-E. So I went from Patrick Nave to Patrick Kulwicki to Patrick Dumke. And that was my name for the next 4 years. We went from Las Vegas, eventually we meandered down through California, through Texas, and ended up living in Miami, Florida, where my dad became one of the cocaine cowboys in the late 70s and early 80s. So my life was about drugs, about violence, about crime, about murder. And as you can imagine, being an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, I was a nervous wreck, had all kinds of nervous tics, Eventually, I found my way into drugs myself, started using cocaine a lot because I was given this little Bayer aspirin full of cocaine almost daily. So my world was very distorted and very messed up. My hypervigilant state because of my HPA axis in here in my brain was like going off the charts. And I didn't trust anybody. And the way I looked at the world was, what do I have to do to survive? I lied. I was an addict in every way. Anything I could do to survive, I did, because my goal was to survive. Well, it would make even more sense if you understood that some of my earliest memories, I remember at age 3 holding a Pabst Blue Ribbon beer in my hand. Now, what 3-year-old is drinking alcohol, right? That was my norm. I had been sexually molested. I'd been passed around. I'd been traded. My life was one messed up plan. Abuse, molestation, being trafficked, you name it, it happened. Drugs, alcohol, crime, being beat, you name it, it happened. All of that together created such a messed up individual that I even went away to a private Christian high school and couldn't handle that and ran away. Hitchhiked from Michigan into Canada, and then was trafficked in Canada, which was a terrifying experience. Got out of that, ended up back in Miami, lived on the street, lived in a tree, was homeless for a while. You name it, I did it. I had to survive. The trauma that was done to me, and then later the trauma that I did to myself, was anything but healthy. I experimented with all kinds of drugs. I drank like a fish. I just didn't want to feel. One time I tried to take my life. That didn't work. And it was just one messed up thing after another messed up thing. Eventually, I survived all that, ended up at a religious school, and felt like the only reason I was alive is because God had a plan for my life. So then I just switched faces. I went from being this troubled kid to being this perfect kid. And everybody that knew me thought, oh my goodness, he's like a pastor's kid. Everything is great. No one had any idea how messed up my life was. I wouldn't bond with people. I didn't trust people. I was skeptical of people. I was manipulative. I lied. I did anything and everything I had to do. But I had this beautiful veneer. Even I didn't know how messed up I really was. In the midst of all of this, I had to face a lot of pain. I had to deal with a lot of trauma, things that I didn't want in my life. I didn't have a choice as a kid. Things just were thrust upon me. And when you experience trauma, it changes you. The way you look at the world, every day you wake up, you don't wake up calm. You wake up already anxious. And it doesn't take much to kind of set you off. It's really hard to trust people. You kind of believe everybody's out to get you. And then if they start to do things to validate that, then you're really like, oh yeah, don't trust them. You try to build this security around yourself. Life wasn't good. I pretended, but yet I still had issues. I still was a mess. I still, when it came to sexuality, was messed up in every way. My thinking and my behavior, what was normal, what wasn't normal, I had no idea. I went to counseling and I was such a manipulative person that eventually I would become the counselor to the counselor. I went to group counseling the first time and did the same thing to the group. And it took years of trying and growing and processing and journaling for me to even start to see the damage that had been done to me and the damage I was doing to me. Once it started to become real and I started to see what was going on, I wanted to change. I just had no idea how. No one knew how to deal with me. I would start to tell them my past and they would get caught up in the story. What, that really happened to you? Oh my goodness, you should be a movie and everything else. That's not what I needed to hear. My life wasn't something that I was proud of. It was just tragic in many different ways. Yet in the midst of it all, I was really resilient because somehow I kept pushing forward. I kept trying. I got a bachelor's degree in religion. I got a master's in psychology. I got the equivalent of a master of divinity. I got a doctoral degree in marriage and family therapy and the equivalent of a doctoral degree in psychology, except for the dissertation. And I learned and I learned. I went to law school for a year. I tried every which way I could to become a better me and just to understand. In the end, I had to learn to accept myself for who I am and to stop pretending. It was important for me just to be me, to not label myself. I wasn't a survivor. I wasn't a victim. Things just happened. I didn't want to be known that way. I wanted to be known as someone who, yeah, they overcame some stuff, but the goal was the future, to be the better me, not to look back and say, look at all that crap that happened to me. So I wanted to move forward. As a result of that, I eventually got licensed as a mental health counselor, started doing counseling, became a specialist in trauma, obviously, became a master certified addiction professional, obviously. And my goal was to help people. So as of today, right, I'm the president of a motorcycle outreach called Bikers Against Trafficking, and we fight to eradicate human sex trafficking. My wife was trafficked. I was trafficked. It's not a good deal. I want to make a difference. And so we mobilize people around the world to make a difference. And we use the tools of motorcycles, and pretty much we'll work with anybody as long as they want to make it stop. We don't talk about it, we do something about it. So that's the first thing I do. I also run an addiction treatment center called Sojourners in Lake Mary, Florida, where we work with addiction. And then I also run a small nonprofit mental health counseling place called Family for Today, where we also work with mental health issues, all of them, a lot of trauma stuff, and addiction as well, including sex addiction. And then the last thing I do, I have this little company called Smokin' Pirates, where we do concealed carry training. We do a lot of cigars, because that's the one vice I kept, right? And so we have our 3 cigars that we do. That's smokinpirate.org. I do all of that because I want to make a difference. All the videos I put up, whether it's our TikTok channel that has, however many, or this YouTube channel or whatever, wherever we put them up, it's not to just spout some great theory or some controversial idea. I really am grappling each and every day for truth. And you may not agree with me, and hey, that's okay. But I will try to respect you and ask that you try to respect me. You don't have to agree with me, and that's okay. I don't have to agree with you, and that's okay. I like me, and I hope you like you. The goal of this whole little video is just to explain to you that if you come from a messed up past, it doesn't mean you have a messed up future. Yeah, there might be consequences you have to deal with that are less than pleasant, but there's always hope. You can always get better. You can always move forward. There's a lot of tools we can learn. There's a lot of ways we can grow. So never, ever give up. You are not your past. The future is bright. Let's journey together for hope, healing, and renewal. So if you have some questions, you can put them in the comments. I'll do my best to get to them, but I'm really swamped. But I read them all, and I appreciate them all. So thank you so much for paying attention. If you think this could actually help somebody, give them some hope, please share it with them. We don't need any credit or glory or anything else. It's just about hope. Let's give people hope. Peace out.